It was a cool November afternoon many years ago. I was just 19 and I was hunting alone. I stood for a while at the edge of a woods, but I wanted a better vantage point, so I unloaded my shotgun and climbed a nearby maple tree. Now this was back before commercial tree stands, so I just balanced on a couple branches. And it wasn't long before I saw a buck walking toward me. Not a big one, but I wasn't fussy. When it stopped, I aimed at its chest and fired. And I don't know which of us was more surprised, me or the deer, because it dropped right where it stood. I unloaded my shotgun and started to climb down, but I was so excited I actually fell the last few feet and landed on my back, and that crushed the thermos bottle I had in my game bag. But that probably saved me from a back injury. And you know what? To this day, I still hunt out of trees. Hi, I'm Dan Small. That's the story of my first successful deer hunt. That was nearly 50 years ago, but I can remember every detail as if it happened yesterday. And I'm sure a lot of you have vivid memories of your first deer too. That shows what kind of impact the experience of deer hunting has on a hunter. Welcome to Deer Hunt Wisconsin 2012. Deer hunting in Wisconsin is nothing short of a cultural phenomenon, and this is especially true of Wisconsin's gun deer season, which begins the Saturday before Thanksgiving and runs for 9 adventure-packed days. Days when more than 600,000 of us leave the comfort of our homes and head for the woods to experience the frosty beauty of a November morning, the camaraderie of family and friends, and we hope, the rush that comes from seeing and bagging a deer. To fully understand this phenomenon, you need to be a deer hunter yourself. But it doesn't take a deer hunter to understand the impact of Wisconsin's gun deer season on families, society, and the economy. Our goal in this program is to make your deer hunting experience more complete, more fulfilling, and more successful. We've got a lot of information to share, so let's get started. In the next hour, we'll look at research by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources to learn more about our deer herd and our deer hunters. A forester and a private landowner will explain how sound forest management can improve habitat, not only for deer, but also for other wildlife. We'll look at efforts to retain existing hunters and recruit new hunters, including some University of Wisconsin football players. And we'll ask the state's big game ecologist to give us a forecast for this year's hunt. Now, throughout the program, you'll see the phone number for the DNR call center on your screen. You can call this number 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and ask a staff person any question you might have about deer hunting. During those same hours, you can also get your questions answered via an online chat or by email. And if you have a cell phone, you can even call or email the call center from the field. Since the days of Aldo Leopold, the DNR has been a science-based agency where sound research guides management decisions. In the winter of 2010-2011, researchers launched the first of 2 multi-year studies aimed at learning more about our deer herd. The first study looks at buck mortality, and the second looks at fawn recruitment. Here's natural resource research scientist Mike Watt to give us an update on what researchers have learned so far and what they hope to learn as their work continues.
Our goal with the adult capture is to try and capture and collar as many adult bucks as we possibly can. Basically, we're going to follow these animals and see what happens to them. So this is an adult radio collar. We put these on all of the adult deer that we capture. Unlike the fawn collar, this collar doesn't fall off. It stays on the animal for the life of the animal until it's either shot or it dies naturally. These collars are like the fawn collars in that they emit a radio frequency, and we can track these collars. We track these animals weekly. And we're interested in what's happening to them. Are they getting shot by hunters? Are they getting hit by cars? Are they getting eaten by predators? What's happening to them? These tags are less visible. They're inconspicuous. So people are less likely to see them when they're out hunting, especially gun hunting. They're less likely to see this on the animal. So if you're lucky enough to get a collared animal or an ear tagged animal, what we'd like for you to do is call the number located on the collar or the ear tag. On the collar, there'll be a little white label on the collar that'll actually say the phone number to call and the radio frequency of that collar, so you can give us that information. The ear tags folks are allowed to keep. Call it in, let us know where you shot the animal. When someone sees a radio collar, they may change their decision because of that radio collar. They may see this radio collar and say, oh no, can I legally shoot that animal, or am I going to affect somebody's research by shooting that animal? From our perspective, we want people to treat these animals like any other animal. If they were going to shoot the animal, shoot the animal. If not, don't shoot it. And the hope is that people aren't either selecting for these animals or avoiding these animals because they have a collar. The ideal situation is that we'd be able to give hunters a better estimate in the fall, so they have a better idea what to expect when they go into the woods from year to year. Sometimes what you'll find in this tall grass is just a little circle or an opening in the grass, and you'll look down and there'll be a fawn inside of it. Sometimes there's nothing to cue in, you just happen to see kind of this spotted little football. This is a fawn collar. When we put these on an animal, the things we're interested in is the frequency. So we have right here 157.770. That's the frequency we use to follow this animal. And this thing emits a beep or a pulse. What we're doing is trying to get information on this animal from the time it's born to the time it's huntable. And what we do is we follow that animal every day from the time it's born until August. We track and see if that animal is alive or dead, and if it is died, we collect as much information we can about what killed it. Was it hit by a car? Was it eaten by a predator? Was it abandoned? And what that does is give us an idea of what survival rates are on these animals in different areas. We picked these two areas because they're uniquely different in terms of habitat. The northern forest has big blocks of forest, very few roads in those areas. The eastern farmland region has lots of farmland and small woodlots. Not only are these habitats different, we're seeing that there's dramatic difference in results, at least in our first year of information. So we have a much higher predation rate in the north than we do in the east. The hunting community could help in a lot of ways. They can come out with us and volunteer, and they can be as active as they want. They can just sit in the background and take photos, or they can get right in there with us and help us collect some information. Everything from helping us do some measurements, setting up the collar to put on the animal, and being right there. I mean, it's a really unique experience. It's rare that you get to be right there in the middle of it all and see what we're up to.
DNR researchers look at the social side of deer management just as carefully and closely as they do the biological side. While some researchers are out in the field monitoring radio-collared deer, others are asking people questions to learn what they've observed and what they think should be done to improve the state's management of deer and other wildlife. For 30 years, the DNR has based deer management recommendations and decisions in part on the results of scientifically conducted surveys of hunters, landowners, and the interested public. To further engage the public in deer management, the department has expanded its data collection efforts through a citizen science approach, which allows people to record and report their observations of deer sightings. Some of these surveys are web-based, like the Deer Hunter Wildlife Observation Survey and Operation Deer Watch. To learn more about DNR research projects, to participate in an online survey, or to check out anything we cover in this program, log on to dnr.wi.gov and enter the keywords Deer Show. As a wildlife biologist, outdoor writer, and TV host, Larry Weishuhn has a unique perspective on deer hunting. We talked to Larry last spring at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel Sports Show.
Whitetail hunting has changed a bunch over the last several years. Probably when you were hunting to begin with, like when I was, if you saw a deer, you were absolutely thrilled to death. If somebody in your community took a deer, he was a hero. Back when I started hunting, if you just saw a deer, you were tickled. Now you're looking for that really big buck. So many people are more interested now, it seems like, in the score of a deer than maybe even the hunting experience. And that kind of bothers me a little bit. I hate seeing that happen. But we're very fortunate in the U.S., particularly because we've seen such a proliferation of whitetail deer across the nation and in so many different areas where we didn't even have whitetail deer many years ago. So the hunter opportunities have never been better. The quality of hunting has never been better. The quality of the equipment that we're hunting with has never been better either. So to me, we're really kind of living in that golden age of whitetail deer hunting. We can get places quickly. Hunting opportunities are everywhere. I mean, some of them are expensive, some are inexpensive, but if anybody wants to hunt whitetail deer, whether it's in Wisconsin or whether it's another state, there are hunter opportunities there. I love Wisconsin. I've been up here numerous times, started coming up years ago actually when I was on staff with the deer and deer hunting. And we spent a bunch of time hunting around Appleton and Iola. And then too, for a long time, I have a cousin and my dad, when he was still alive, we used to come up and hunt along the Flambeau River up around Oxbow. And we hunted deer there and we also hunted black bear there. When everybody asks me, what one bit of advice can you tell me to make me successful or have a great time? Always it's the same, go hunting. Don't look for excuses not to go. It's too cold, it's too wet, it's too hot, the moon is wrong, this is wrong. just get out and hunt, because if you're out there and hunting, those opportunities are going to present themselves in being able to take animals, but also in the opportunity to really get to know those animals out there and know that habitat and learn a little bit about everything that's out there. So to me, the best thing you can do is learn that all that you can about whatever you're going to hunt, where you're going to hunt, and then go hunt. Don't look for excuses not to.
I'm here at the new trading post at Milford Hills Hunt Club with membership director Mitch Ely. Now Mitch, today most Wisconsin deer hunters use rifles, and I see you've got a couple different actions here. Let's talk about the relative advantages of each.
Of course, absolutely. What we're going to start with here is what's called a bolt-action rifle. Extremely popular, especially in the state of Wisconsin, for deer hunting. It's going to be your most traditional and most popular action because of the accuracy. You're loading one shell at a time. I have two different calibers selected here, which are also popular in the state of Wisconsin. We have a .270 and a .30-06, which are considered to be big game calibers. You can take other calibers as well, such as .243 or maybe a .223 for either younger or maybe women shooters. But so the bolt-action rifle, the way it works is your magazine is inside here. So when you're ready to pump a shell in to load the gun, you simply close the bolt, shut it down, it loads one of the cartridges right into the barrel, and you're ready to fire. Once you've fired, you simply pull it up, pull it back, it's going to eject the shell, and then you can pump another one in when you're ready to shoot again. Now the next one here is going to be a semi-automatic. Now this is a .30-06, so this one's going to work slightly differently. The magazine is still loaded from the bottom here. What you do is the magazine's going to stay open like this. All you have to do when you're ready to fire, close it up like that. When you pull the trigger once, it's going to kick this back, eject the cartridge, take the spent one out, put a new one in, and it's going to kick it forward for you. So it just takes all of the extra legwork of loading that next shell out of play.
So the second shot is faster.
Correct. You can fire quicker, but it's not going to be quite as accurate. So those are the major differences between these two guns.
Okay. Now, a generation ago, iron sights were really popular, but today just about everybody puts a scope on a rifle like this or even a shotgun. And I see you've got three options here. Let's talk about them.
Yep, we got a couple different options here. So essentially, we have kind of a short, mid, long range scope selection here. So we'll start with your short range. This is going to be a zero power scope. So it's meant to be either for close range rifle or for shotgun. So what it's going to do is it's just simply going to give you crosshairs to look through instead of using what traditionally used to be iron sight.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next one here is going to be what's called a 3 to 9 power magnification. So this has a 40 millimeter lens on it, which is going to collect a good amount of light. This allows you to select your magnification level, so you can go anywhere from 3 all the way up to 9 power magnification, which this scope will be extremely popular in Wisconsin. It allows you to shoot comfortably and consistently anywhere up to 300, 350 yards, be able to see what you're doing. So it's very popular here. The next one here is going to be what's called a 4 to 12 power magnification. So your low power is higher and your high power is higher. Meant to be more for long range. Also, this is a 50 millimeter lens, so it's going to collect more light. So it's going to be easier to shoot at dawn, easier to shoot at dusk, and it's going to be easier to shoot long distances, 500 plus yards.
And of course, you have to put this on a rifle or shotgun, you mount it, and then you have to sight it in, right?
Correct, yep. So what you would do is you'd do what's called bore sighting first. That's simply matching the scope to where the rifle is shooting. So the rifle's always going to shoot in the same spot. All you're doing is taking your scope and matching it to where the rifle fires. So when you get it close by doing the bore sighting, then you can actually start sighting the rifle in.
To do that, you need to actually shoot ammunition. You need to live fire the rifle.
That's correct, yep. And we actually just completed a brand new 100-yard rifle range here on site, which has 50 shooting bays. So it's already been incredibly popular with people around the area coming out to sight in their rifles because obviously deer season is coming up here.
In fact, I think Brian Smith of Wild Adventures TV is down there at the range with a shotgun. Now, there are certain parts of the state where rifles are not legal, and even where they are legal, some hunters prefer shotguns as an option because they shoot at closer range. So let's go down and see what Brian Smith has to show us on how to sight in a shotgun. Hey, Brian, I see you're all set up already. That's great.
Yeah, Dan, just getting ready for the deer season here.
Well, why don't you show our viewers what a shotgun can do?
All right, I will. I'll tell you, coming to the range just before deer season, a couple of things to think about. Make yourself comfortable. I happen to like using this lead sled. It just makes, if you have to sight in over and over, it just makes things a lot easier for you. The other thing I like to do is, once I get my shotgun set up, I leave it set up for the entire season. I call that my DSG, my designated slug gun. I like using a good scope. Today I've got the Hawk Deer Pass scope on my gun. I like this scope because it is designed specifically for a shotgun. And do some research on that. You'll save yourself a lot of headaches down range, and especially from the deer stand. Couple things to think about when you're in the field and you are sighting on that animal. You're holding the forearm. So when you're at the range, you're going to want to hold the gun down on the bench where you're at to help replicate you holding that gun. You got to remember, a slug is a lot larger bullet, and it's a lot slower moving. So any kind of jump that you're going to have here, it's just going to magnify it the further down range you go. I like using light field slugs. I know that there's all kinds of different slugs out there. I love this slug particularly for two reasons. Number one, it's the only slug manufactured that will chamber to the barrel, any barrel, works great through smooth bore, and works superb through rifling. I also like it because it's 100% lead round, which means that it's going to hold the energy down range. Not only is it going to hold the energy down range, it's going to transfer 100% of the energy into the target you hit. For me, that's important. I'm getting older and I don't like blood trails. I like retrieving the game. All right, so we're going to sight this in, and two things you want to think is always aim at the same spot, regardless where the first round hits on the target. Anchor back on the same spot, fire another round, and see how your group is. We recommend 3 shots for this. I'm going to go ahead and start this at 25 yards, see where it is, see if you're on the paper yet. Always start as close as you can. Don't be trying this at 100 yards. You're going to waste a lot of slugs. You're going to waste a lot of money. Okay? So I'm going to get my ears on here and get ready for the first round. All right, as you can see, the first round went exactly where I wanted to, and at 25 yards with my DSG, I know that the trajectory of these light field slugs, that's going to put me at about 2.5 inches high at 50 and dead on again at 100. There you go, number 2. Last one. Three shots all right in the same hole. Now I got a gong target set up at 100 yards. Let's see how well I'm sighted in at 100. I'm going to reset my lead sled. And I also have to account for the wind. We've got a pretty decent crosswind downrange. And there you have it. Sighted in, ready for deer season.
That's some pretty good shooting, man.
Well, thanks, Dan.
You bet. It's really impressive what a shotgun can do when it's sighted in.
Oh, absolutely. And I happen to really love these bolt action guns. But you know what? Any slug gun that you're comfortable with, just keep it your DSG.
Absolutely. Hey, do you think you can hit that gong again?
Sure. Yeah.
A few minutes ago, I mentioned Operation Deer Watch. That's an online survey conducted in August and September that asks anyone, not just hunters, to report deer they see during daylight hours in those 2 months. It helps wildlife managers gauge fawn production over the summer. Another survey is called the Deer Hunter Wildlife Survey, and it asks you to report not only deer, but a total of 17 species of wildlife that you see while you're out hunting. You can report what you see online or print out a tally sheet and mail it in. You can also submit trail camera photos of endangered or rare animals. For instance, several cougar sightings were first reported by surprised hunters who photographed them at night with trail cameras. To find an online link to the Deer Hunter Wildlife Survey, go to dnr.wi.gov and enter the keywords deer show. You can check out the trail camera photos that others have submitted. Some of them are pretty amazing. Reporting your wildlife observations can help DNR biologists, and you might find it interesting as well to log all the critters you see while you're hunting. It's also a great way to get a non-hunting child or friend interested in hunting. Of course, for getting someone really fired up about hunting, nothing beats an actual deer hunt. And joining me to talk about the hunting traditions and how we can pass it on to the next generation is Keith Warnke, the DNR's Hunting and Shooting Sports Coordinator. Keith, our deer hunting traditions are recorded in camp logbooks and in the verbal history of our families, but these traditions are changing, aren't they?
They're definitely changing, Dan. We've had a really long, strong tradition of hunting, especially deer hunting in this state. But as things change, like fragmentation of land ownership, access to land, families end up spread out across the continent, even across the world, it gets tougher and tougher to maintain that hunting tradition.
So what are we doing to pass on the tradition?
Well, we're really focusing right now on working with hunters. Hunters are going to be our best ambassadors to the next generation of hunters. We're also working with young adults. One of the things that we're finding is when we connect hunting with food, young adults are very interested in hunting, just like we saw when we offered a hunting course at Madison College this past fall. After the course, we offered all the students a chance to get involved in a Learn to Hunt activity. I think you're going to find their perspectives and their reactions really interesting.
All right.
Growing up in an urban area outside of Detroit, Michigan, having a family who had no hunting background or gathering background or agricultural background, it's really been an exploration for me.
I'm here to learn about hunting. It's one of those things that I have no background in, but the idea of actually being able to eat something that's grown in the wild, it appeals to me.
Partly, I thought too, as was the case with my dad, I was interested in hunting for food more than as a sport. That it never appealed to me as a sport.
There was an article in the local paper talking about hunting for sustainability. Never found any place where I could just learn how to do it. And so I read that, I'm like, that's it.
After the course was over, we offered students the opportunity to go on a Learn to Hunt event. We followed up with Marcia and her mentor after the hunt.
We walked out with a nearly full moon illuminating the Leopold Preserve. We walked past the shack. We hiked along the Wisconsin River. This was the first time she'd ever sat for hours just to observe nature.
It was really nice to see just how the world changes as the sun comes up. It was a beautiful morning. Unfortunately, we didn't even see any deer. You know, now I just learned a little bit more about how to put the puzzle together and want to try it again.
That was a great example of folks who made learning how to hunt a priority. But you know, Keith, something that really affects hunting time is how busy we all are these days. It just gets hard to maintain that priority on hunting.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yeah, we really all have been there, haven't we? We're busy, we don't have as much time as we used to. Well, we caught up with a couple of guys who are really busy in the fall, and they're going to tell us a little bit about what it's like to attend classes, play football for the University of Wisconsin, and keep up a strong bow hunting tradition. They're also talking about introducing some of their teammates into bow hunting.
I got an 11-pointer right now with a split G2, so I'm going to try and go after him.
Nice.
With, big-bodied deer. But,
So we don't have much time going from class to meetings and, scouting the next opponent we're going to play. So we have to find a close location where we can go and bow hunt, as close as possible. We have Monday nights off of football, so in order for me to get out and hunt, it has to be on Monday nights. And, obviously school comes first, but, you schedule things to where you can do it in the mornings, you can get out in the afternoon and really clear your mind before the next week comes. There's a lot of guys that have been really interested in coming out. There's the new mentor license that I'm going to get a lot of guys involved in, where it's it's $5 and you can bring people out. I'm really going to get guys involved in that because they're excited about it, to where they don't have to put in so much money and invest their money in something that they're not really sure about yet. So I'm excited about that. We had Jacob's roommate Connor O'Neill come out with us a couple years ago, and he's got his hunter safety, and we got a couple other guys doing hunter safety as well. So it's awesome. Yeah.
we've been getting out in the woods, just scouting and doing a little thing, all summer. So I'm pretty excited to get out.
It's great to see the football players make time for hunting.
Oh, yes.
And judging from the ages of everybody in those first two segments, just about all of them will need hunter safety certification, won't they?
Yeah, that's true. And we've recently made it much easier for adults to get hunter safety certification. We've streamlined the process. You can take a course online, come in, take a test for an hour, and you're done. We caught up with a bunch of participants in the new course this summer.
I have friends that do the yearly deer hunts, so it seems like a fun time. I've tried signing up for normal hunter safeties before, but with work and travel, I've never been able to do it. So this year, hopefully I'll be tagging along.
I'm a busy graduate student. I could never do one of the classroom ones that you had to go every day. Being able to come in on a Saturday morning for an hour is just great.
Actually, I'm here because my fiance is really into hunting, and I never grew up with it, and I'm just now getting into it so that I can impress the in-laws, if you will.
My husband nagged me, and with being so used to online classes, going to school as well, and having the opportunity to actually do this now online, it actually saved me a lot of time.
So here's the key thing, Dan. If you're an adult and you're interested in getting started hunting, or you know someone who's interested in getting started hunting, you really need to start thinking about next year right now. Look for those adult hunter ed courses to be posted on our website after the first of the year.
And I understand that now the first hunting license only costs $5, so you can get started for just $5.
Yeah, there's a great discount now that you can start hunting with. And one thing to be sure of, whether you're an old hunter or a brand new hunter, is always remember the 4 rules of firearm safety.
Let's see, that's treat every firearm as if it's loaded. Always point your muzzle in a safe direction. Be sure of your target and beyond, and keep your finger out of the trigger guard until you're ready to fire, right?
There they are, Tab K, an easy way to remember them.
All right, thanks a lot, Keith.
You're welcome, thank you.
Remember, you can call the DNR call center number 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and ask a staff person any question you might have about what we've been talking about, as well as questions about deer hunting. And during those same hours, you can get your questions answered via an online chat or email. And if you have a cell phone, you can even call from the field. Now here's another hunter's story about her successful deer hunt.
These are my grandpa Iggy's socks. He used to wear them when he went hunting. And my mom one day was like, hey, you should wear these when you go hunting for your first time. I was like, okay. So I put them on, and I believe that's the reason why I shot my first deer.
Tell us about your actual hunt at Sandhill.
Woke up at about 2:30 in the morning, got dressed, got in the truck, drove for about an hour, and we got there. And then we waited in line to check in. Check-in time was 6 in the morning, and we got my tag, everything. We got out to where my blind was. We walked through the woods for about 15 minutes maybe, got to the blind, set everything up, and waited.
And then?
And then at about 8:50, I was sleeping against a tree, and I heard some rustle in the background. So I was like, Uncle Pat, do you hear that? And he's like, no, what? And I was like, there's a deer over there. And I kept pointing, and he's like, don't point, don't point. So then he finally sees the buck, or deer. He doesn't know it's a buck yet. And we see it, and it's coming in, and all of a sudden it gets to my shooting lane, and he makes a grunt call, and it stops dead in its tracks, broadside. And I take the shot at 8:53. I took one shot, and you could see him jump a little bit, and then he took off, and I looked at Uncle Pat and smiled and started to cry, obviously. And he's like, we gotta wait, we gotta wait. So we waited for about 10 minutes, and then he's like, let's go, let's go. So we started walking down, and I noticed a blood trail, and he keeps saying to me, follow the blood trail. And then eventually he stands in front of me, and he's like, look over my left shoulder. And I look, I'm not seeing anything. And he's like, really look. And all I see, the antlers just tipped over, and ran right up to it.
Great story.
Too many emotions.
I know. Wisconsin native Mark LaBarbera has hunted all across North America. Through his work with the North American Hunting Club, the Minnesota DNR, Safari Club International, and the Mule Deer Foundation, Mark has met a lot of hunters from other states who come to Wisconsin to hunt. Mark, why do you think Wisconsin has such great appeal to hunters from other states?
Hunters I've talked to across North America know that Wisconsin's deer herd is healthy and well managed. I used to work for Minnesota DNR. I've talked to guys who are wildlife officials from states and provinces all across America. And they say that it's a model of success, the way we manage our deer. We have healthy habitat, we have plenty of public land, we have people who have a passion, private landowners and others, who have a passion for managing deer to be healthy and abundant. We're blessed.
Absolutely. Now, you wrote the first 2 editions of the Wisconsin Buck and Bear Record Book. What kind of impact do you think Buck and Bear Club has had on Wisconsin's reputation as a great state to hunt deer?
Oh, Wisconsin Buck and Bear Club has made a big difference, huge positive difference. And you know, they just scored that Jimmy Spataro buck out of Waukesha and added another one to the record books. That was a crossbow kill. The numbers don't lie.
What numbers are we talking about?
Well, you look at Boone and Crockett record book, all-time records from 1830 on. I did the research with their trophy search last night online. Wisconsin is #1 in typicals and in combined entries in the record book. I mean, we have 32% more record book entries than #2 Illinois, and all the others are far behind. You know, also the Wisconsin bear hunting is so good. We rank #1 in bear in the record book too, in Boone and Crockett's North American Big Game Records program.
No kidding. Now, you've lived and hunted in other states, and I can probably guess why you've come home to Wisconsin.
Yeah, you know, for me, it's the hunting opportunities, the lakes, the woods, all the access that's there, but more than anything, getting together with family. It's just part of our heritage.
So I imagine you're really looking forward to this gun deer season.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing Rachel shoot her second deer, my daughter, and my wife Connie shooting her second deer. Last year they showed up all the guys in camp.
Well, I hope they have another great hunt, and I hope you do too. Well, we're riding in a Honda UTV today, and there are some new laws that just recently took effect, aren't there?
Yeah, some people may not realize July 1 everything took effect on the new laws, and they're summarized in this brochure from the DNR. You can get it at licensed centers or ATV dealers, or if you want to check online, just go to the DNR website and check out keyword for ATV.
Okay. Well, Mark, let's go take a look at some more Milford Hills here. Forestry is an important part of Wisconsin's economy. Forest products account for 14% of the jobs in the manufacturing sector, and the paper industry alone ranks second among Wisconsin's 65 manufacturing industries. More than 62,000 people are employed in the forest products industry, and total wages contribute $2.8 billion a year to the state's economy. Deer management decisions need to consider the full impacts of deer on their habitat, and in some parts of Wisconsin, overabundant deer have limited forest regeneration and quality and reduced biological diversity in that forest. These impacts occur slowly over a long period of time, and by the time they become obvious, it may be too late to save a particular forest. If you're a woodland owner, are your woods becoming park-like and open? Deer could be partly responsible, and your forest might also be aging. I recently toured a private woodlot in Richland County with the owner, Doug Duran, and DNR forester Mike Finley for a look at a well-managed forest. Well, Doug, what exactly are you doing here?
This is a very mature oak woods, and what we've done here is to manage for a variety of things. We're managing for timber production, we're managing for wildlife, managing for the long-term legacy of this property.
Mike, what's your role in this process?
My role is to assist Doug with the forest management, the technical side of implementing the forestry practice.
This thick understory behind us, is this natural?
Yes, it is. It's all natural regeneration as a result of the harvest that Doug did in here approximately 10 years ago. Sunlight was able to penetrate through the forest canopy because of the tree removal and hit the forest floor, which stimulated quite a bit of undergrowth and brush.
How long a process is this?
Timber sales can take some time. There's a lot of setup initially, the planning stages, what we're going to cut, how we're going to harvest it. And then once the timber does get put up for sale, it can be a 2 or 3 year contract, very typically. So it can be a somewhat lengthy process.
Well, down this trail, what else have you got for us to look at?
There are a couple of areas of clear cutting. They, 10 years ago, were absolutely leveled, and now it's a picket fence of 10-year-old trees and new regeneration, and it's a wonderful deer and turkey and wonderful wildlife habitat down there.
All right, let's go take a look.
All right.
Well, Mike, tell us what we're looking at here.
This is an area that was clear cut approximately 10 years ago. A lot of folks might think that a clear cut is deforestation, but it's not at all. It's just starting over with a young forest. So this area has come in very thick with desirable species. We've got black cherry, we've got red maple, we've also got some nice shrubs in here, hazel and dogwood. And I think this is a great example to show where we can sustainably move timber products while providing some really good cover for wildlife at the same time.
So I assume that a variety of wildlife use it.
Absolutely. Not only things like deer and turkeys, but also things like grouse and smaller songbirds as well.
Mm-hmm. Now you're of course managing with deer in mind. How has the deer hunting been since you've done this work?
In the last 10 years, we've had the best deer hunting on this farm that we've ever had. Not only for quantity, but also for quality.
This looks like a really successful project. Is that always the case?
With natural regeneration, it tends to be always the case. In this case, natural regeneration was able to provide a lot of seedlings and saplings per acre. We have another spot on Doug's farm that we can show you where we did some planting of seedlings, and we weren't quite as successful because we didn't have as many per acre growing out there.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's take a look at that.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Well, Doug, what was wrong with this project? Where did it fail?
Well, as you notice, as we were coming in, there are rows of white pines.
Yeah.
Between each one of those rows was supposed to be a row of red oak.
And this is the only survivor?
It's one of the few.
Oh. And this tree is the same age?
This is a 15-year-old red oak, 15-year-old white pine.
Wow. Well, Mike, what happened?
Well, red oak is one of the favorite species for deer to browse. They particularly like the young, fleshy growth each year, so they've held this tree back by continued browse year after year.
Now, how big should it be?
This tree should be about 4 or 5 inches diameter and approximately as tall as some of these naturally seeded in ash behind us.
Well, so what can a landowner do if he wants to improve his habitat?
Well, we're still doing a lot of tree plantings, and these are really nice for habitat because they've got that pine component and the hardwoods. But we're not planting as much red oak anymore. If landowners do want to plant red oak, they have to protect it with either a tree tube or deer repellent. And we're planting a lot of white oak and swamp white oak and black cherry instead of as much red oak because they're not as favorable browse for deer.
Well, Doug, that's a lot to remember, and I can see why you really benefited from working with Mike and other people in DNR. It seems that that's the way to go, isn't it?
Yeah, landowners should remember that their local DNR forester is available to walk their property with them for free and assess their habitat and forest management. And remember that whenever we are doing forest management, we're also doing habitat management.
Spend as much time as possible scouting the area you plan to hunt. Sign like cracks, scrapes, and rubs is pretty obvious, but other sign might be more subtle. Heavily used deer trails are pretty easy to spot, but bucks don't always use the same trails as does and fawns, so you need to identify travel corridors like waterways, ridges, and other natural landscape features. And look for bedding areas. Deer bed down in tall grass, cattails, dense brush, evergreen thickets, any place they feel safe. And they sometimes change bedding areas when they're pressured. Water is especially important in a dry year, so look for springs, ponds, streams, even little low spots in the terrain that might hold water. Ironically, the more time you actually spend in the woods scouting and trying to pattern deer, the more likely deer are to pattern you. And that's why a lot of hunters use trail cameras. You can set out one or more cameras to monitor travel corridors, scrapes, rub lines, water holes, and trails into and out of feeding and bedding areas. And if you do, check them once a week or even less frequently to monitor deer movement. And with a portable camera stand like this stick and pick, you can put cameras right where you want them, not just wherever there happens to be a handy tree or fence post. And this setup lets you watch in 2 directions from the same position. If you hunt from a tree stand, set your cameras along trails near your stand to see what time of day deer are using them. And always wear a safety harness designed for hunting when you're in your stand. Hook it up as soon as you climb up and keep it connected while you're in your tree. Statistics show that 1/3 of all deer hunters will have a tree stand accident at some point in their career. And most accidents occur when hunters are climbing into or out of a stand. You can do a lot of scouting for gun season while you're bow hunting. And one of the things bow hunters notice is that deer behavior changes now in early November. Bucks start moving around more in search of does. And that extra activity often spills over into our firearm season, especially in a year like this one, when the season opens on November 17th, which is the earliest possible date under the current season structure. As the rut approaches, you may find bucks are using different trails than they were a few weeks ago, and a blind or stand location perfect for bow season might not work during firearm season. You might want to move your blind or stand anyway to cover a larger area because you can take longer range shots with a rifle or shotgun. You can often get away with moving a portable tree stand or ground blind during daylight hours a week or so before your firearms hunt. And a hub-type blind like this is the easiest to move, so you can set it where you're most likely to see deer. And if you've got a fully insulated blind like this Clam Outdoors Elite Hunter, even if the weather turns cold, as it often does in mid-November, you can sit all day in comfort. And remember, if you hunt from a ground blind on state-owned or managed land, you must display at least 144 square inches of blaze orange material on all sides of the blind. And it's a good idea on private land too. Wisconsin law requires all hunters except waterfowl hunters and those legally hunting at night to wear blaze orange during any firearms or muzzleloader season for deer, and to be legal, at least 50% of your outer clothing above the waist, including a hat, if worn, must be blaze orange in color. And if your orange garments are faded, you might need to replace them with new ones to be legal. Take a look at this dramatization, courtesy of Calcami Hunter Ed, that demonstrates the relative effectiveness of a solid orange jacket compared with an orange vest or camouflage orange garment. Pretty convincing, isn't it? You know, a deer's most powerful defense is its nose. It's been said that a deer can smell over 1,000 times better than you and I can. Bow hunters pay attention to scent control, and gun hunters should too. You can turn your hunting outfit into a scent elimination suit by spraying it with a quality scent control product. Spray your clothes and let them dry before you go into the field, and you'll make it harder for a deer to detect you with its nose. And now here's Larry Weissoon again with the story of his first successful deer hunt.
I can remember that first deer like it happened this morning. It was actually 1961. The opening of the Texas deer season. I'm sitting in a big tall oak tree and I'm using my maternal granddad's single shot shotgun. We used to call them single barrel shotguns, 12 gauge. Morning comes up, it's starting to get, sun's coming up, and off in the distance I hear that first shot, and oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And I'm sitting in this tree and it's up about like this, and I'm about 40 feet up in the air. And I'm looking around and I hear something behind me, and I'll kind of look over here to the left, and here comes a world record white-tailed deer coming right straight toward me, you know. And I'm going, oh my God. And I remember I've got the shotgun, and I start following this deer, and he comes right down beneath me, and I cock it, hammer, and I pull the trigger, and the deer goes down. This world record hits the ground and immediately jumps up and runs off. And I'm opening the shotgun. I got a double-up buck stuck right there in my mouth as soon as I heard this deer coming. So I got stuck here, opened that shotgun, and some of those old single-shot shotguns, guess what happens if you tug a little bit too much on the fore end? It disengages the barrel. Well, in the heat of the moment, I opened the shotgun, tugged that fore end, and the barrel goes and sticks in the ground. The world record deer is running away. I got a double-up buck stuck here in my mouth. And for several seconds there, I think I even thought about jumping out of that tree 40 feet down to go retrieve the barrel. Well, finally reason returned a little bit. I kind of skinnied down that tree, got down there, picked up that old barrel, and blew all the dirt and things up, stuck that shotgun shell in there, put it all back together again, and I started on this trail to where this deer is gone. And I'm looking way out there, and I stumbled right across the top of this world record whitetail. But yet when I finally take a really good look at it, he's got a spike about this long on one side, the spike long about that long on the other side. The greatest moment. Over the years I've taken deer that scored 200, and I've hunted all kinds of different places. There's nothing that quite compares to that moment and that memory of that first white-tailed deer.
We've given you some ideas on how to scout for deer. Now let's get a forecast for this year's hunt. Kevin Wallenfang is the DNR's big game ecologist, and he's responsible for deer, bear, and elk. And Kevin, you know, this forecast is always one of the most popular parts of this show. There are lots of deer in the state, but people want to know if they're deer where they're going to hunt. So what do you tell them?
Well, you know, I really hate to talk about numbers specifically. I like to talk in more general terms. You know, if I put a number on the number of deer that are out there, I feel that really influences people's expectations of the hunt. So let's talk more generally about it.
Okay. So what can hunters expect around the state?
Well, let's start with the north. Actually, the forested regions of the state, northern part of Wisconsin and the central forest. We would anticipate this year that we should have a pretty good season up there. We had a very mild winter last year. We've got lots of acorns on the ground, so our animals should have come through the winter in very good shape. Nice fat deer this summer. We have cut back on the number of antlerless permits over the last couple of years to allow populations to grow. Now, we've still got some areas where deer numbers are below goal, and we have set seasons accordingly to let those populations continue to grow. We've got a few buck-only units, but in general, we've got a few doe tags in every unit of the north. with a few exceptions, and we would expect a really good season.
So what about southern Wisconsin?
Southern Wisconsin always seems to have plenty of deer. It's a farmland region of Wisconsin. The carrying capacity of the land is quite a bit higher because of the agricultural crops out there. Now we've had a drought this year, and that could impact some hunters in both a good way and a bad way. One of the things we really like to see is the corn crop come off, because that gets rid of that big jungle of corn out there, and it makes deer more accessible. You've got more deer in the woods and in the marshlands where the hunters can get to them, so that could really help this year. On the other hand, the drought conditions, deer need water all year long. That has impacted our acorn crop, so it's going to be really important that hunters do their scouting this year in the south. Should be plenty of deer out there, but you're going to need to find them and scout for them.
Well, Kevin, we've heard a lot about this disease, EHD. What is it, and what impact is it having?
Well, EHD is a disease that's caused by a biting little fly, and it's something that's fairly new to Wisconsin. This is only the second time that we've ever seen it, and you see it in a drought year like Wisconsin has this year, and you know, on a big basis, on a statewide basis, it should not really impact our deer harvest at all. But in local areas, you know, we've heard of some properties, 800 or 900 acres, that they found 50 or 60 dead deer on. And, you know, if you're one of the guys that hunts on that property, you could have a tough season. So the big picture of things, it really shouldn't matter, but on a localized basis, it could impact your hunting this year.
You mentioned scouting, so what do you suggest hunters do?
We talked about the numbers a little bit very generally, and you know, we do aerial surveys in the wintertime, for example, and deer are not spread out evenly across the landscape. And I think that's something that's very frustrating to people, because when we put a number out there, it makes people think that those numbers are spread out evenly, and they're just not. You know, we do these aerial surveys in the wintertime, and we can see 1 square mile with 120 or more deer on it, and the next square mile next to it with very few deer on it, a half a dozen or even none. So, you know, if you're one of the guys that's hunting on that great square mile, you can have some fantastic hunting and really look forward to a good season. But, you know, if you're the neighbor next door, you could have a much different season. So getting out there, finding the best places to hunt is always going to be important, because those deer are just not spread out evenly.
So what are you hearing from hunters?
Well, so far it sounds like the archery season's off to a pretty good start, and in general across the state, most people are saying they're seeing more deer out on the landscape. In the north especially, we're hearing from quite a few people that say that deer numbers seem to be up, and you know, all that stuff, again, you have to take with a grain of salt, because you know, the drought this summer has got a lot of wildlife moving more often. You know, one good example of that is there's been a lot of dead raccoons on the road this year. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's more raccoons out there. It might mean that they're searching more for food, and they're just getting themselves into a bad spot. So the same thing can be said of deer, but in general, people are saying that they're seeing more deer this fall, pretty much in all corners of the state. So hopefully that'll translate into a really great season.
There are a few new rules this year, aren't there?
There are, and the good news is it's a few. The biggest one that will probably impact people is there was no October hunt this year. We've had that for the last 10 years or so in the CWD zones, and that hunt is not going to happen this year. And also in the CWD zone, we've had a private lands hunt for the last couple of years, late in January, February, March. That hunt is also not going to take place this year. Another big one that people are really excited about is that they can shoot coyotes in the north again. Because of the new wolf season, that law has been lifted now, and they'll be able to hunt coyotes. And another really big one is that people can now use their handheld bow or a crossbow during the gun deer season.
Will there be any changes this year because of the Kroll report?
You know, there really won't be. The Kroll report is something that we're working on right now, but it will not impact any of the 2012 hunting seasons at all. We're looking long term on that. By 2013, I think you're going to start to see some changes, but for this year, things are pretty much status quo.
All right. Well, Kevin, I'm going to cook up some venison in just a bit. You want to join me?
I've never turned down venison on the grill. I'm not going to start now.
All right. And now here's another deer hunter's story of a very special hunt with a special friend.
I'd like to tell you about a really good friend of mine, Brian Wiest. We met in kindergarten, first day, and really from then on, we were pretty much attached to the hip. And when it came to hunting and fishing, we did it all together. He really meant everything to me as far as what a friend should be. And I'd like to share with you a moment that we had. It was, you know, not about my biggest deer, but it was about Brian's last deer. And Brian and I learned of this deer in 2008 while shed hunting. We located one of his antlers and immediately knew that it was, you know, a good deer. And Brian and I were always about, you know, filming together and going after the biggest buck we knew of. So we had our eyes on this guy. And the summer of 2010, we thought we had found where this deer was bedding. On October 29th, got confirmation trail cam photos of this deer. And we went in on Halloween morning together. And we're fortunate enough that he was indeed in there like we thought he would be. And he followed a doe right into our setup, and Brian captured the whole event on camera, and it was something that I'll always have to look back on. Unfortunately, a month ago to the day, Brian was killed in a head-on collision. The driver in the other vehicle was texting and came into his lane, and he didn't have a chance. You know, just to take a moment to remind everybody that when an opportunity presents itself to get in the woods or get in the field or get on the lake, you know, when you get that chance, that, you know, think about it, it could be your last.
I've got an easy shish kebab recipe here that I'm preparing, and this is one you can do at deer camp. You can do it in your kitchen at home, or as we're doing here, on a grill at the patio at Milford Hills Hunt Club. Now we're going to let these cook a little bit. I've invited some friends to sample them. By the way, this recipe is on the screen right now, and it'll also be on the DNR webpage. Just type in keywords deer show. Joining me now are three friends. Kevin Wallenfang, you just saw him a couple minutes ago. He's the deer biologist for Wisconsin. And Brad Karstad, you may remember Brad from last year's show. And of course, Cathy Stepp, DNR secretary, she was on last year's show as well. Now, Cathy, you shot your first deer last year right after the show. What was that like?
I did, Dan, and I mean, you know, I don't really know how you can put words to the exhilaration of that moment, really. And you really have to do it and feel it and experience it to really understand that connection of why, you know, deer hunting is such a part of the DNA of Wisconsin. And I'm so thankful I had the opportunity to do that. And, you know, you'd have to do 3 shows with me in a row for me to be able to give all the detail and the color of the shot and the moment and the buzz and the adrenaline and everything about that, which made it so special for me. But of course, we don't have that much time. So therefore, I will suffice it to say that while everybody out there loves to brag about their big bucks that they get with all the points, it was certainly a trophy to me, albeit much smaller than that. So that's my successful story, and I'm still enjoying some of the jerky still. So it was just an amazing time. And, you know, girls are missing it, man. That's the other thing I want to say is for all the ladies out there and you guys who have kept all this fun such a secret from the women for so long, the jig is up because I'm spreading the news.
All right. Well, Cathy, that's a great story. Thanks for sharing it.
Thanks.
Now, Brad, you killed your first deer many years ago. Why don't you tell us that story?
Well, it was in 1971. I was 15 years old, and I was hunting with my father in a group up in northern Wisconsin, and one of our party got lost. So it was Saturday afternoon of opening day, and we were out looking for him. And my father and myself were walking along the swamp edge of this 40 that we always hunted on, and I was looking along the swamp and my dad was looking up the hill, and I was sitting up on this, it was basically either a hemlock or a white pine stump, and there was this yellow birch growing out of it. And I saw this 12-point buck walk out of the swamp, and I was using a Model 94 Winchester lever action with a peep sight, and I put the sight on the deer, and I figured, well, that's about the middle, and I dropped them right there. And my dad, I didn't even tell him. He looked at me, he said, "What are you shooting at?" And he saw this big 12-point buck laying there. So after I shot the deer, that yellow birch, I carved my initials and the year. And in 2005, the year before my dad died, he and I were hunting back in that same spot, and I cut this off of that tree. The tree was dead, and it was just laying there, just a stump left. And I cut this off, and I keep this up at our cabin on the mantle as a remembrance of the first and the last hunt with my dad.
Wow.
So
great story.
Great story.
Another great story, and Brad, you've got great mementos of that hunt too.
Thanks.
Now, Kevin, you killed your first deer. I imagine you were probably the same age, weren't you?
I did, actually. I was 12 years old, 1979, 33 years ago. I can still remember it, like Cathy's last year, her first one. I can remember every detail of my first deer. A lot of funny little stories included in it. I remember I woke up that morning to the sound of rocks hitting the window because my friends that I was going hunting with, I fell back asleep when my alarm went off. They woke me up. I remember that I was out of arrows because I had shot them all at a deer the day before and had lost every one.
Oh, no.
So I went down and I stole one out of my brother's quiver that was about a foot longer than what I could actually shoot. So I had this arrow sticking that far out off the end of my bow and I shot. I was with two older friends, and you know, this was before mentoring was really the thing. I had two older mentors. They were actually friends of my brother's, and I don't know why, but they took me under their wing and they showed me a lot about hunting and fishing when I was 12 years old. And one of them was sitting in the tree with me. I remember when the deer walked out, and he saw it first. He told me about it. I stood up to shoot the deer and the seat squeaked and he leaned over on the seat to keep it from squeaking so I could stand up. And I'll give this to Cathy. She made a great shot on hers. I hit mine right in the butt at about 4 yards. But the good thing was I hit it in the right spot and it ran about 200 yards and tipped over, and it was a day I'll never forget.
I'll be darned. Yeah, great. And you know, you talk about mentoring, and really people have been mentoring other hunters for generations. Now we've kind of institutionalized it. We're trying to help more people do that. Cathy, your message for hunters at the end of last year's show was a great send-off. What do you want to tell hunters as they get ready for this year's gun deer season?
Well, thank you, Dan. My message this year is to have fun out in the woods and to take your family with you this time. And guys, you got to get the girls out there, because we all know that when you get women involved in hunting, the family gets involved in hunting. It's a great Wisconsin tradition. It's something that is part of our DNA in Wisconsin, and it's just so important that we get future generations and especially the women involved now. And girls, if you haven't done it yet, you're missing it. So you got to get out there, and I hope to see you all in the woods this year. And have fun and be safe.
A great message, Cathy.
Thank you.
Great message. Thank you for watching. And join us again next year for another episode of Deer Hunt, Wisconsin. Well, guys, I think those shish kebabs are probably about done. Why don't we grab our plates and go see what they taste like?
All right.